Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to Watchbox, and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email me, tmosso@thewatchbox.com. Your purchase and pricing email question line for buying this or any watch you see on any Watchbox platform. Reach out to me directly. Email tmosso@thewatchbox.com for pricing. Today, we're discussing a watch launched in 1998. This is the Blancpain 50 Fathoms GMT, part of the Trilogy collection that emphasized Blancpain's role on land, sea, and in the air. Land was the GMT that you see right here. We also had the Air Command for the air and the standard 50 Fathoms, and it was a return to form. Although Blancpain first launched the 50 Fathoms as the first modern format dive watch in 1953, the company's late 1970s bankruptcy and 1980s resurrection by Jean-Claude Biver did not initially encompass sports watch production. So, from the late 1970s through 1998, Blancpain made high horology dress watches. In 98, the Trilogy collection roared back to life, and suddenly we had a trilogy of sports watches under the 50 Fathoms name. So this watch in stainless steel is 40.5 millimeters in diameter. It's 13.3 millimeters thick. From lug tip to lug tip, 46 millimeters. And if we include the end links of the bracelet, then the total distance across the wrist is 49.7 millimeters with a 20 millimeter spacing between the lugs. This bracelet is well regarded, and we'll talk about it in a moment. But first, we're going to talk about the fit on my 16 centimeter circumference wrist. It wears well. Being 40.5 millimeters and relatively short lug to lug, I could tell you that this watch wears like a 40 millimeter Rolex sub. So if you can wear that, you can wear this. Now take it off the bracelet and put it on a strap, and I think even a lady could wear this watch. It would be suitable for a wrist of 13.5 centimeters circumference. On the bracelet, I'd recommend it for a wrist no smaller than 14, but it is low enough and flat enough to fit underneath the cuff. So if you want to dress it up with alligator and wear it with a sleeve, you absolutely could as a dress watch. Taking a quick look at the cuff shot, you can see it's thin. From over the top, you can see it's nowhere near the edge of my wrist. And down the barrel, you can see how much clearance I have. Again, my wrist is 16 centimeters. The bracelet, the X71 style, very well regarded. We have a conforming end link to better integrate with the case. At this point, we still had strap tool holes on the assumption that you might want to swap between straps and the bracelet. The bracelet has an immense amount of structural integrity, partly because the tolerances are incredible. You can see there's a countersink between the links, and then there's only a small gap between the center links to vent the wrist. We have a little bit of a taper down from the end link. We have polished outer faces. We have polished intermediate shoulders. We have satin primary links, and then we have removable links fixed by screws, those on both sides, so you should be able to size this precisely. Not every version of these bracelets includes a trigger release system. Some versions of the X71 are actually friction fit. I don't love that on a sports watch. I like to have a trigger that requires positive displacement to open the clasp, and we have that here with the twin triggers. Polished internally, you can see it's a double swing arm clasp, very secure on the wrist and very comfortable. The X71 is renowned for its finish, durability, and ergonomics. The case is similar to the design language established in the 80s and 90s by Blancpain dress watches. So we have these rather short cropped teardrop profile lugs, everything's polished, that are sharply broken out from the case band. The case band also includes copious advertising, as you would have found on a lot of the dress Blancpain watches at the time. Screw down crown, large knurling. We have the logo of the company, a little bit of a crown guard profile. The watch is 300 meters water resistant, and before you note, I already know 300 meters is not 1,000 feet. Almost all the Swiss brands do this. Just press the I believe button. What I love about this bezel is that for a GMT bezel that's bidirectional, it uses a rare 120 click detent, so you can place it very precisely, and it has a satisfying feel and sound to it. It's a pleasure to operate, and that's rarely the case with GMT bezels, which tend to feel rather gross compared to the best dive bezels. This one matches. Now you can see that the bezel is polished outboard and sharply knurled. Up top, we have raised, relieved, and polished numerals and indices, and then a media blasted base to the insert. The dial is black gloss with applique indices and quarter Arabic numerals. We'll take a look at the luminescence. Note that all four hands, the hours, the minutes, and the seconds, plus the 24-hour hand for the second time zone, are luminescent. And being fully loomed, the dial makes it easy to read the actual hours and minutes indicated by these. You can see that the watch has a little black date disc that sits between the indices, so it's minimally obtrusive. The bezel is designed to calculate a third time zone. I'll show you how this works. So you have that red hand that moves once around the dial every 24 hours. That's your second time zone. That's the place where you are not. It's often called your reference time zone. You can see how the local hour hand moves at twice the speed, and the watch does not feature hacking seconds, but even a small amount of back pressure on this caliber, as with all center second 1150s, you can generally stall the movement and then fix it exactly where you want it to sit so you can synchronize. Now, back to the dual time functionality. I am able to set the local hour hand independently from the 24. You can see how I also don't displace the minute hand, so this allows me to travel and change my primary time zone without interrupting the watch's timekeeping. The timepiece, of course, features a base that is derived from the Frederic Piguet 1150, but it is not precisely the 1150. This is the Frederic Piguet 5A50. It's a automatic winding twin barrel movement with a 100-hour power reserve and 2 independent time zones, one in 24-hour format, one in 12-hour format. It beats away at 21,600 vibrations per hour. It pivots on 28 joules, and like a high horology movement, and it is a high horology movement, it's hand finished and adjusted in 5 positions. The only feature it doesn't have is hacking, but again, a little bit of back pressure can achieve stop seconds with this movement. It is delightfully executed by Frederic Piguet, which I should note has been twinned with the Blancpain brand since the 1980s, when Piguet and Biver both went into a partnership to create the new Blancpain brand. And so they were not the exclusive movement supplier, but the primary movement supplier until 1992, when Swatch Group bought both of them and then hitched them together, making Frederic Piguet manufacture Blancpain. So when you have a Piguet movement in a Blancpain, it is effectively an in-house caliber, and that continues to this day. The 100-hour power reserve is supremely practical, and unlike later 50 Fathoms watches, this one is supremely wearable even on a small wrist. Reach out to Team Mosso at thewatchbox.com for purchase and pricing details.